All right. Thanks everybody for joining today for the June 2024 CAD training on Sanitary Sewer Pipe Networks. As per usual, on the S drive in the CAD training files folder, there is a CAD file as well as some PDFs. Feel free to follow along with the CAD file if you'd like to. Use the tools as I'm using them and showing them. Okay, so today we're talking about pipe networks as they pertain to sanitary sewer. Next month, we're going to be talking about pipe networks as they pertain to storm sewer and structure charts. So just kind of an idea of where we're going today and where we'll hopefully get by the end of next month. So to start out, generally speaking, what is a pipe network? Pipe network, as far as we use them, are for modeling gravity systems. For us, it's storm and sanitary. We don't use them for water, gas, electric, anything like that. They're nice because we can show them in plan, profile, we can make charts for them, and everything updates dynamically. If you make a change in one place, it's going to make a change everywhere. I have the Autodesk definition of a pipe network there. I'm not going to read it to you, but the gist of it is you're going to have a grouping of pipe objects and structure objects, and those all work together to form the pipe networks. One of the benefits is that they can be quickly adjusted and labeled, and the labels are also dynamic, and you can use them to check for conflicts against one another. Okay, a couple helpful hints before we kind of get into the meat and potatoes of it. Using multiple viewport configuration setting is really useful whenever you're doing pipe networks. I'm going to show that if anyone hasn't used it before. It's also really useful for other aspects of Civil 3D like road design because you can show your plan and profile at the same time. And then the other thing that we're finding more and more is that using newer versions is important. I would recommend if you haven't updated to at least 2024 that you do so. We've had issues where maybe one member of a project team's using 2022 and someone else is using 2024, and it doesn't always play well together. But generally speaking, if you're on the newer version, you're going to see fewer crashes and errors come up. Okay, so a parts catalog. A parts catalog is basically a collection of every part we have access to add to a parts list. Few things. The parts catalog has to be pathed to the S drive. Sometimes you may open a file and try to interact with a pipe network or create one and there are no parts. Shows up empty. It's because this path was lost and it's probably pathed to your C drive. So the first thing we're going to do today is just run through how to set that network path. So we're going to jump over into CAD. For this, you can just start a new drawing from the template, or it can be a blank file. It doesn't matter. You just have to be able to get into the settings. So what I have here is a new drawing from the template. I'm going to go to my Modify tab. I'm going to click on Pipe Network. I'm going to hit the Parts List drop-down, and I'm going to click Set Network Catalog. Within here, you can see mine is already set. But if yours is not, you would hit the folder button for the catalog folder, and you would navigate to the S drive, go to Design, Pantera CAD Standards, and Pipes Catalog. And you hit Open. And then within here, you are going to see drop-downs for Pipe Catalog and Structure Catalog. Under Pipe Catalog, you want to pick US Imperial Pipe Catalog, and under Structures, you want to pick the Pantera Standard Inlets, and hit OK. Now, whenever we go to create a network, modify, or work with in any way a pipe network, you're going to see all the parts that we have available to us and that are currently set up in our parts lists. So we'll switch back over to the notes. So a parts list is essentially just kind of like a folder within a parts catalog. So we have one for sanitary sewer and we have one for storm sewer. And now we're going to get into kind of the first main exercise, and that is going to be creating our first pipe network. So there's a few different ways to do that. I'm going to show you two different ways. I'm going to show you which parts list to use, show you how to do it in Plan and Profile. So we'll jump over into CAD. Within that S drive folder, there's a CAD file called 2024-06 Exercise 2-6 Sanitary Sewer Pipe Networks. I have that opened up. It is read-only, so if you are working within this and you try to save it, it is going to prompt you to save it somewhere else. I would recommend a training folder on your N drive so you have it for later use if you would need to do this again or need a refresher at some point. So just for a little bit of background on this, this file is a modified version of an MD for a phase of a single-family subdivision. Within it, we have a road alignment, there's a corridor, there are surfaces, there's already a storm sewer pipe network, and there is line work and an alignment for where the sanitary sewer needs to be. If this is you in a project you're doing the sewer for, you probably don't already have the alignment in there, but for the sake of time for the exercise, I'm assuming that we already know roughly where we want it to be, so I created some of the background stuff first to save us a little bit of time. So the first thing we are going to do is create a pipe network from object. So to do that, we are going to go to the pipe network dropdown, and we are going to click Create Pipe Network from Object. Now it's going to prompt you to select the object you want to create from. Generally, this is either a polyline or an alignment. I'm going to click the alignment. It pops up flow arrows because it wants you to accept your flow direction. I'm going to go with this direction. So I accepted the command. It's going to prompt for a name. I usually use PR San for mine. Now it's going to want a parts list. We're going to use the PTE Sanitary Sewer parts list. Pipes to create. Usually we use 8-inch PVC and 48-inch diameter manholes. These, surface name and alignment name, sometimes you have these when you do the sanitary sewer, sometimes you don't. The surface allows the top of the manholes to automatically be set to whatever surface you choose. In this case, I am going to do that, and I'm going to use the proposed surface. And for the alignment, I have a PR San alignment already. I'm not going to erase the existing entity because I always want that alignment to be there. And I'm not going to use vertex elevations. So I'm going to hit OK. And it's going to pop open your pipe network. So you can see it added manholes, it added pipes, the whole length of the alignment down to the tie-in manhole down here. So what do we do next? From here, I would create a profile view. The way you are going to do that is by going up to the Profile drop-down under the Home tab in the ribbon and hitting Create Surface Profile. Under the alignment, we're going to go to our sanitary. I'm going to add the existing surface, and in this case, I'm going to add a corridor surface. So this is Sussex Drive where we added the sanitary, so we're going to add that. We need to set our styles to existing and final grade, just like we would for any other profile for a road or whatever. Hit Draw in Profile View. Going to name it PR San to match everything else. I usually use the same naming convention throughout just for consistency's sake. Under the view style, it kind of varies based on what you're doing. Some sewer authorities want to see the sewer drawn from low to high or high to low in elevation. In this case, I want it to be from high to low, so I'm going to pick right to left. I'll hit next. I see a chat message popped up from John Hauser that said, why are you using the corridor surface rather than the proposed surface? In this particular project I chose, the proposed surface is built off of contours because there was some hand grading that was tied into it. So rather than have steps shown in our profile, I just picked the corridor surface more for the sake of the exercise than anything else. Generally speaking, you're probably going to use the proposed surface, but good question, it's a good catch. Under profile, view height, I usually go to user specified. Under the pipe and pressure network, since we're doing the profile for the sanitary sewer, and that's the alignment we chose, I'm going to add all of the sanitary from the network. Now, depending on how complicated of a project you have, if you have multiple runs of sewer in your network, you probably don't want to select this. You would rather hit select parts from screen and click the individual runs you want added to your profile. But in this case, I can just hit the checkbox. Under data bands, set those up the way we would for any other profile. Create profile view, and I'll put it up here. And now we have a profile, existing surface, finished grade, our sanitary sewer. You can see one of our pipes dives down to nowhere, and we can't see one of the manholes. Now, I did this intentionally so you would have to see that, because sometimes your surface doesn't always have your sewer in it. Like if we have a cross lot sewer run or something that may not have proposed grading over it. So I'm going to show you how to fix that in just a minute. But first, I want to show you that multiple viewport tool. So under your view tab, viewport configurations, we can click how many different viewports you want to see. In this case, I'm going to pick 2 horizontal viewports. And now I can control these independently of one another. So I'm going to have my plan on one and my profile on the other. All right. From here, I'm going to fix the profile where the elevations are wrong for this manhole down here and it's driving the pipe down. So the way I would do that, I would go in plan view and I'd find this manhole, which is right here. I'm going to select it. I'm going to right click and go to structure properties. And then under the part properties tab, I am going to go through here. There's a property here called automatic surface adjustment. This is what's telling it to set the top of casting at a surface. The problem is this manhole is outside of the surface that is selected. So I'm going to change that to proposed, or from proposed to existing. I'm going to hit OK and apply. Now, on a site where you're doing this with a tie-in manhole, we should have shot and stabbed that manhole already. So what I would do in that particular instance is I would change the automatic surface adjustment to false, and I would type in what I want this elevation to be using the shot to match it. So now I close that, and you can see now my top step here, but the inverts are still way down at 0 because it used 0 as a default value. So we can fix that too. Again, if we have shots on that manhole, we know the invert out. So what I would do is go back into the structure properties for this, go to connections, and I would type what I want the invert in to be. In this case, I don't know what the inverts are for this right offhand, so I'm just going to type it in for the sake of the exercise and make it 445 so that it shows up on our screen. So now you can see the pipe is here. Everything looks a little bit more normal. Next thing we're going to do is add the existing pipe runs into our tie-in manhole so that in our plan and profile we can label all of the inverts in and out of this manhole, and you can see the ellipses in profile for the other inverts. So the way you would do that is in plan view, click on any object that is in the pipe network. So I'm going to grab our manhole, right click, and I'm going to go to edit network. From here you get a dialog for the network layout tools. You have a drop down for all of the parts, structures that are in your parts list, and you have one for all of the pipes. I'm going to add 8-inch pipes, so I'm going to hit the drop down for that, 8-inch. This button lets you toggle what you're drawing. In this case, I'm only going to draw pipes, so I'll hit pipe only. And then this button lets you toggle which direction you're drawing. One thing with pipe networks that you always have to pay attention to is which direction you're drawing your pipes. What I mean by that is if I start at an upstream manhole and draw a pipe going downstream, but I have this arrow pointing the wrong way, it will make your slope labels backwards and it will make your charts backwards. This becomes a really big deal with storm sewer. In sanitary, you can miss it and sometimes be okay, but in storm sewer, if you do it, it's a bad time. So I usually leave it by default. The arrow is pointing down right now. If I click it the other way, it's going up. So I always draw upstream to downstream. So now I'm going to click on my pipe, and in my plan view, I can start to draw. One thing I recommend is that whenever you are drawing pipes and structures with pipe networks, you turn off your object snaps to start. The reason being, whenever I go to mouse over something I'm connecting to, it puts this glyph that looks like kind of like a crosshairs. That's telling me that I'm connecting. But if I turn on my object snaps, it also turns on everything I have active, and I could miss the connection unintentionally and not even realize it. So I just turn them off. I'm going to connect to the manhole, and in this case we're doing existing pipes. I'm just going to put little stubs out because I really only care about seeing the connections in the manhole. So I'm just going to snap nearest to that. Now I'm going to do it again. So I'm going to draw my pipe. I'm still drawing upstream to downstream, so this time I'm going to start with the pipe and I'm going to connect to the manhole. Now there are pipes in there. You can see the ellipses are now there because it knows they're connected to the manhole. So now the next thing I would do is show you how to swap parts. So every once in a while we need to use something other than an 8-inch for sanitary, or something other than PVC. So for example, a really deep sewer run, the authority might require it to be ductile iron or something like that. So I can click on a part that I want to swap, right click, and say swap part. But I don't see it here, and I catch myself doing this sometimes. The problem is you have to do it in plan view, so I'm going to select this in plan view. Now I have all the options. I hit swap part, and I can select exactly what I want. So I'm going to make it an 8-inch ductile iron pipe instead. Click OK, and now it shows up ductile iron pipe when I go to pipe properties, ductile iron, so it knows that it's there. And later, whenever I show you how to label the pipes, you'll see the type, size, slope, length, all that stuff there. So that's how you do that. You can do the same thing for the manholes. The other thing I do whenever I first set up the network is I will name the manholes. The way you do that, you can select one that you want to rename. You can go to structure properties, and under the information tab, the name's right here. So I'm just going to call this MH1. You would use whatever naming convention the authority is requiring you to use. Then you just hit apply and OK, and that'll be set, and you'll see what that does later whenever we are doing labeling. Okay, so now I want to show you how to adjust slopes and inverts on your pipes and structures. So it's pretty simple. If I want to change the inverts in and out of this manhole, I select the manhole. You can do it in plan or profile. You go to structure properties. You go to the connections tab, and I can see my connections. Let's say I need to drop these a foot. So I'm going to say this one's now going to be 452.08 and 452.33. I hit apply, OK. I don't know if you noticed in my profile view, but the pipes dropped and the manhole got a little bit deeper. The other thing I can do is say, all right, this pipe that I have selected, I think it could probably be a little bit flatter. So I can select the pipe, go to pipe properties. Under part properties in there, I can set the slope. So I'm going to hold the upstream end and I'm going to go at minus 1% instead of 2. I hit apply and you see it jumped in profile. You hit OK. I also see that I unintentionally must have a typo in my top of casting on the tie-in manhole because it looks like it's up at 467 instead of 457. So to change a top of casting, you select the object, you go to your structure properties, you go to the part properties tab, and yep, I have it way off. I'm just going to type 457 and apply and OK. And you see it dropped it down. So I'm going to save my drawing real quick. That's how you would create and start to modify a network from objects. If you don't have a polyline and you want to start drawing a network from scratch, you can also create a network by going to Pipe Network Creation Tools. You put in all of the same selections we did before, and what it'll do is instead of automatically populating your structures and pipes based on your object, it'll just open up your dialog box and you can start to draw it manually. I'd say 99% of the time, I draw a polyline or an alignment first and use that. It's quicker, easier, and usually you need to have it planned out anyway before you can start to put a pipe network together, so it just works out. So from there, we're going to jump over to the presentation slides. So moving forward from there, rules. Rules are important for sanitary sewers because they set certain criteria for the objects. In this case, Civil 3D doesn't recognize by default that the pipes in a manhole end at the inside walls of a manhole. They assume it goes to the center. So we have a rule that takes care of that. It's called PTE length adjust, and I'm going to show you how we apply it. So we're going to jump back over into our CAD file and keep rolling with the same file. So you can do this a couple of ways. I'm going to show you how to do one part at a time first, and then I'll show you a quicker way to go through all of them. So I'm going to click on the pipe that I want to apply the rule to. For what we use them for in sanitary, we are always going to apply the rule to the pipe, not the structures. So I'll go to this pipe. You can see that the endpoint grip on the pipe is the center of the manhole. That's how we know that the rule has not been applied yet. So I'm going to select the pipe and I'm going to go back into our pipe properties dialog. Under here, there's a rules tab. By default, it's set to PTE sanitary sewer. It is set that way so that whenever we create the networks, it doesn't automatically put all of the elevations to 0. It gives you something that's usually fairly reasonable to start with that then you can tweak. So I'm going to change the rule set to PTE pipe attachment. I'm going to hit apply and OK. Now the hang up that people often have with it is they think they're done at that point. But really all you did was change the rule set that it's associated with. You didn't tell it to start following the rules. So what you have to do then is click on the part you're applying the rule to, right click, and hit apply rules. Now you notice the end is where the inside wall of the manhole would be, both in plan and profile, and it did it to both ends. However, it only did it to the one that I applied it to. So you could go through and you could do that to each pipe individually. In this case, there's only 4, so it's not a big deal. You could do it that way. But in some cases, you have maybe 20 or 30 on a really big project. If you're doing some kind of a big preliminary subdivision plan that needs to have sanitary sewer designed. So what I would recommend is using this tool called the Project Explorer. It's up on the Home tab in the ribbon. So if we click on that, it's going to open the Project Explorer dialog box. Within here, there are tabs across the top for all of the different Civil 3D objects. We are going to select the pipe networks tab, it gives you the networks that are in the drawing. So these two are the storm sewer. I'm going to click on our sanitary sewer, and you can see it shows you a model of your sanitary, and down here it gives you a list of structures or pipes or pipe runs. We're going to go to pipes. I'm going to select all of these pipes, right click, and do set rule set styles. And I'm going to change them all to be PTE pipe attachment. As you can see right now, the one that I already changed is PTE pipe attachment, but the other ones are PTE sanitary sewer. So when I hit OK, now they're all the same rule. So we're done in here. We'll close the Project Explorer. One note on Project Explorer is that if you do not close it as soon as you're done with it, it constantly tries to refresh and update itself, and it'll bog down your CAD really badly. So if you use it, I recommend open, use, close every time. All right, so now that we have the rules set, like before, it still did not apply them. So I need to select the pipe, and I can right click, apply rules. You saw the grips move. We'll do it again, apply rules, and apply rules. And now they're all shortened to what they should be. If you forget to do that, your labels with your pipe lengths and slopes will show up incorrectly, and if you try to double check the math, the numbers will not work out. So you have to keep that in mind. Okay, so that's it for that one. We'll switch back over to the slides and keep moving. So from there, we have styles for pipe networks, just like we do for any other civil object. We have some pipe styles and some structure styles that are specific to sanitary. I have the ones we normally use shown here on the slide. And then we're going to talk about labeling. We have several label styles as well, and they all kind of have different uses. So we'll jump back into our CAD file and run through how to use some of those real quick. All right. So we're back into our file that we were using before. The first thing we are going to do is label some parts in plan view. So I'm going to start by labeling my tie-in manhole. One thing when you're dealing with an existing manhole, you always want to label it before you change the style, and I'll show you why. But real quick, we'll label it. So there are a few different ways to do it. You can click on an object, right click, and hit add label. Typically the way I like to do it is go to the annotate tab in the ribbon, click add labels. Under feature, I hit pipe network. This drop down, I'm going to label individual parts. So I'm going to do a single part in plan view, and now I can select what styles I want. If you click on an object and hit add label, it's just going to add whatever the default label style is for it, and then you have to change it anyway. So I like to open the dialog box and give myself a little bit more control. So to start, I'm going to set my pipe label style to flow arrows for sanitary, and the structure label style I'm going to make name only sanitary. I'm going to click add. Now I can click on a structure. It just puts the name on. I'm going to click on a pipe, and there's the flow arrow that it added. While you're going, if you want to use a different label style, you can use the drop downs. So I'm going to change my structure label style now to be sanitary proposed for a land development plan and subdivision. And maybe I want to show the length, description, and slope for some reason in plan view. You want to use length, description, and slope rules so that it takes into account that the pipes end at the inner wall of the manhole. So I can click add again, click on my pipe. You see it put the length, the size and type of the pipe, and the slope of the pipe with a flow arrow. I can add the other label here. It added the structure name, top of casting, invert in and out. The other one I'll add, we have a few styles for specific authorities. So anyone who's done a project that's in Spring Benner Walker's service area, you know that they like to reset the stationing in the profiles and plan view for their manholes at 0 for each manhole. So we have some styles specific to them. We also have a UAJA one, which is what they like to see, but it's what I would use for kind of any sewer authority other than Spring Benner Walker. The difference is in the LDP and subdivision style, it does not show stationing, and in the other one it does. The reason we do this is if we wanted to show our sanitary with labels on a road profile, we may not want the stationing to show up because the stationing of the sanitary could be different than the stationing of the road. So you can see on the UAJA style, it has the station of the alignment that we made for the sanitary, and it has all the same information otherwise. These labels you can click on and you can drag out to where you need them to be on your plan. The name only one puts it in an oval. We also have an existing style. So I'm going to label this manhole with an existing label style. So I click on the manhole with the existing style, and now you see it's our existing text style. Top, it has the inverts. So that's how you're going to label things in plan view. How to label parts in profile, basically the same exact thing, except instead of single part plan, we're going to hit single part profile. We're going to change our structure label style. In this case, I'm going to use the UAJA style, and we'll use the length description and slope. We can hit add, and we can just start clicking on objects to add some slope and other information to our pipes and structures. And you can see the one that I changed earlier, it catches that it's ductile iron pipe, not PVC. It'll do the same thing if you change the size. These labels can also be drag stated down. It'll put them in a box. If you have a bunch of utilities that are near each other in elevation, you can drag state the pipe labels as well. It's really nice, makes it easy to label everything, and if you need to change an invert or a slope, all of the other labels will update accordingly. Saves you a lot of time from having to type everything in. Okay, the last thing for this one is showing how to change styles. So I'm going to change the tie-in manhole style from proposed to existing. The way you do that is select the object you want to change. You can right-click, you can go to Structure Properties, and under Information you see the style. I'm going to change to EX PTE Sanitary Manhole for an existing manhole, Apply, and OK. Now the way this style works, in Plan View, it turns the label off. But in Profile, you can see it shows up with the existing style. You can do the same thing for the pipes. So I'll select a pipe that I want to change, go to Pipe Properties, Information tab, and we'll pick PTE Existing Sanitary, Apply, and OK. For the pipes, it turned the center line off, but it left these outer lines that are on a no plot layer turned on. It's really useful for whenever you're making changes later, you can still select these in Plan View. Okay, so now we'll run back into the presentation slides and keep going. So there are also times where you may want to show a pipe network in a road profile or in another utilities profile. This is fairly easy to do, but there are a couple of kind of tricks you want to do so that you don't affect the way things show up in other parts of your drawing. So we'll switch back over to our drawing, and we're going to add the sanitary sewer we just created to the road profile for Sussex Drive. So I'm going to go to the road profile for Sussex Drive. You can see it has existing grade, finished grade, the water line's in there, the storm sewer's there. We just want to add the sanitary. So the way we are going to do that, there's a couple different ways. The way I typically like to do is selecting objects that I want to show. So just select a few of these and say we're going to say draw parts in profile view. Okay, so I have everything selected down to the tie-in manhole, and I'm going to go up here and click the button in the ribbon that says draw parts in profile. You click that, it wants to know what view you want to add them to, so I'm going to click on the grid for the road profile, and now you see it popped in the manholes, it popped in the pipes, but the tie-in manhole is missing because I forgot to select that one. So the other way you can add pipes and structures is by selecting on the profile view grid, right click, and hit profile view properties. In here, there's a pipe networks tab that shows all of the networks in your drawing and shows whether the individual objects are being drawn in this view. So I'm going to minimize the storm because we're not worried about that right now. And it shows that everything is drawn right now in this profile with the exception of the two pipes that are tying into the existing manhole and the tie-in manhole. I still don't want to show either of these pipes, so I'm not worried about that. But I do want to show the existing manhole, so I'm just going to check the box to yes, apply, and now you see that it popped in over here in the profile. So that's how you would do that. You can add labels in this profile the exact same way that you did before using your Add Labels dialog box. All right, next thing we're going to do is add crossing pipes to a profile. So we're going to go back to our sanitary sewer profile up here, and I see that there are some storm sewer lines that cross this sanitary. I want to show where those crossings are in my profile whenever I am preparing the plans for the sewer authority. So there's a really nice trick for how to do that, and that is by going into your profile view properties. You're in the Pipe Networks tab from before, and down here at the bottom there are two check boxes. If you hit the top one, it'll only show you the parts that are already being shown in your profile view. It's useful for some things. For right now, we're going to leave that one unchecked, but we're going to check show only crossing pipes. And it's going to show any pipe that crosses your alignment. So it shows those two crossings. I'm going to turn those on. And what you'll notice when I hit apply, they look like weird kind of cut pipes. That's because we need to do one other thing to make them show up correctly. So I'll go back to profile view properties, show only crossing pipes. And on these two pipes, I need to apply a style override. Now this is important. If you change the style under just the style tab, it is going to change the style everywhere in your drawing. So these pipes in plan view are going to look like ellipses. Same thing on your storm sewer profile. But if you do the override, it will only affect the way they appear in this profile view. So I'm going to do that. And I'm going to pick pipe crossing pipe, and it's a storm pipe. So I'm going to hit storm, and we'll do it again here. Okay. We hit apply and OK. And now you see it shows the ellipses of the crossing pipe. It's on the PRUT storm line layer because they're storm pipes since we changed the style. Now the other nice thing you can do is label these pipes. So in this case, I'm just going to click on one. I'm going to right click and I'm going to hit add label. The way Civil 3D labels these crossing pipes, it labels them twice. We can delete this one that shows the length, size, type, and slope because we don't care about that in this view. But we are going to take this one that shows up just with the type of pipe and we're going to change that style. So I'm going to go to label properties and it's going to open up my CAD properties, which I'll drag over here. In here, it shows the pipe crossing style. I'm going to change that to be PTE PR crossing pipe. And now I can see the size and type of pipe, and this invert is the invert of that pipe where it crosses the sanitary sewer alignment. So it's not the invert in or out of the box, it's exactly where it crosses your sewer. So it should match what you're seeing in your profile view, which ends up being really useful later if you need to check clearances or something like that at your crossings. So it's a useful tool. So that's how you add your pipes and structures to other profiles and also crossings to any profile. Okay, last thing we're going to go over today is how to check for conflicts with other pipe networks. This is somewhat limited in that it can only look between pipe networks like a storm and a sanitary, or if you have, for some reason, 2 runs of storm or sanitary crossing each other, you can check that. You can't check for crossings with other utilities that aren't modeled as pipe networks, like water or something, gas maybe. But it is useful for checking between your storm and sanitary, which we have to do pretty often. So one note about it is that it checks in 3 dimensions. So it's going to check, let's say you have a storm sewer line that is near a manhole. It's going to also check the distance from the manhole horizontally to your storm sewer line, or from an inlet horizontally to a manhole or to a sanitary sewer line. So it's checking all the way around, not just vertically. So we're going to jump back into CAD, and the way we do that is we run an interference check. To do an interference check, we go to the Analyze tab, click on Interference Check. You have to select a part from the first network. So in Plan View, I'm going to just pick Sanitary, and then I'm going to pick Storm. I can name it, so maybe we'll say Storm versus Sanitary. It's verifying that these are the networks you selected. It is what I selected. Under the style, there's a few styles. I'm going to pick this PTE interference check style. And now you want to click on 3D proximity check criteria. If you skip this, it's only going to check for direct hits of storm sewer hitting sanitary. I want it to check for distance between. So I'm going to do this. I'm going to apply a 3D check, and I'll pick a distance. In this case, we typically want to see 18 inches of separation, so I'm going to say 1.5 feet. Hit OK, and hit OK. It's going to check it. It found 0 interferences. That's great. That means we're good as far as that goes. But for the sake of what we're doing now, I'm going to show you what it looks like if there is an interference. So under the prospector, I'm going to expand pipe networks and interference checks, and you see my Storm V sanitary. I can change this criteria at any time. So let's say for some reason, maybe I only need a foot of clearance. I could recheck it that way. In this case, I'm going to up it to a number that I know we're going to have some interferences, so I'm just going to check within 5 feet. Hit apply. It found 1 interference. Okay. So now we need to find that. The way we are going to do that is by finding where it selected the interference. Now we're still in the process of finding a way to get these styles to work properly. And if you're going to use this, I can help you set this up. There's an issue right now where when you set the block size in the template, it doesn't always stay in the drawings. It could also be that this drawing existed before the style was there, but you can see the blocks there, it's just tiny. The way the style is set up in the template now, it's going to make that bullseye type block, but it's going to be 5 feet in diameter over the crossing, and it's going to be color 10. So if you print a plan that has this on it, it's going to show up red so that you know you have a problem. So it shows I have a hit here. I can look and see, okay, that's between manhole 31 and 30. Find that crossing. Must be this one. And then I could tweak it. I could drop my sanitary down. So we'll drop that down. We'll make that minus, say, 3%. Do that. Obviously, we wouldn't leave that this way, but for the sake of checking, I can rerun my interference check by selecting it, right-clicking, and rerun. Still have a problem. I would have to drop it more, but then you can continue to run it until you no longer have those issues. So all it is doing is tagging those interferences. It is not making any changes to the inverts of those pipes. It's just a good way to double check yourself. I still recommend manually checking your crossings for everything, because you still need to know where it crosses your water, your gas, all of that good stuff, and you want to make sure you're good on cover. But it is a useful way to quickly go through them as you're doing the basic design for the sewer. Okay, so that's all I had for today. Next time we're going to talk about storm sewers and how to create structure charts, how to create different types of structures as far as different sizes of inlets, types of inlets, types and sizes of pipes, and how to model those, how to do end sections and outfalls and all that good stuff. Does anyone have any questions as it pertains to sanitary sewer pipe networks or pipe networks in general? While we wait to see if anybody has anything to put in the chat. Just as a reminder, this is recorded like every other monthly CAD training. It's going to be posted to YouTube. You're welcome to check it out later if you need a refresher, or if someone's asking you some questions about how to use the pipe networks and you're kind of fuzzy on what to tell them, or thinking you could point them in the direction of it. That's kind of the goal. So we do a question from John Hauser: will we do sanitary sewer charts next time? We can actually do a few right now. Sanitary sewer structure charts we sometimes use, we sometimes don't. That's kind of why I didn't put them in here yet. But we'll add a couple real quick. So under the Annotate tab, switch you over to CAD. We go to Annotate, Add Labels. We go to, I'm sorry, not Add Labels. We're going to add tables. So we're going to add tables, pipe network, add structure, because we're going to do a structure table. There are several styles in here. One that I like is I like the UAJA design plans and as-built plans. For anyone who's done UAJA plans before, you know that we need to put GPS coordinates of all the manholes in. So there's tables for that now. So you can select your network, select your style, hit OK, click in here, and you get an empty manhole GPS coordinate table for the design plans. And then later, after we as-build it, you make the changes to your network based on our shots. You can select your table and go to Table Properties and just change it to the as-built style, and it'll put the northings and eastings of those structures in, so you don't have to manually type all that, because if you've done it, you know it's kind of a pain. The other table styles we have, really the only other one that I would normally use for sanitary is the PTE sanitary structure table. So we can select that. It shows you the structure number, the type of structure, your top of castings, your inverts in and out with directions, and then the pipe run information. I believe UAJA still requires this on their general plan sheets. I'm not sure if Springben or Walker does or not, but it's a useful way to do this without having to manually type all that in as well. We also have lateral design tables, which I don't have a sample file ready today to go through on, but we could do that another day. That usually go on the plan and profile sheets for the plans for the sewer authorities, and show all the Y inverts, end lateral elevations, lateral lengths. That's where you type in your end lateral GPS coordinates on your as-built, all that good stuff. Those spreadsheet templates are located on the S drive. If anyone needs to find those before we get to do them in one of these trainings, come find probably either John Hauser or myself. We could point you in the direction of them. But we need to do those pretty much for any as-built or design set of plans as well. So were there any other questions? Okay, seeing none. Thank you everybody for joining today. If you have any questions after we're done with the call, feel free to come find me, and I'd be happy to help you out with them. Thanks everybody.